A few months ago, I was involved in a really exciting tiny house building workshop, which took place just outside of Vancouver in British Columbia. Today, we've traveled to see the finished tiny house and check out how everything has turned out.
Mate.
Hey Zach!
How are you?
Good to see you.
Welcome.
The place looks amazing.
Thank you. It's, what can I say? It's been a long journey.
It certainly has. The last time that I saw this tiny house was a few months back when we were actually building it as part of a tiny house building workshop in Vancouver.
This is true, yeah.
What was it that actually made you want to build the tiny house as part of a workshop?
You know, it was going to be quicker, it was going to be cheaper, and we were going to be able to connect with the tiny home community and those who were interested in doing the same thing as us. And really it was our builder, Ben, who you know very well, who's just wonderful. He said, you know, I have a ton of people who might be interested in taking part, and I'll watch the quality control, which actually wasn't really a concern of mine because I assumed if he's going to do a workshop, he's going to be concerned about that anyway. But he assured me, and I said, fine, great. I mean, is it going to quicken the whole pace up? And he said, yes. And I said, will it be cheaper? He said, yes. I said, great, go for it. And then we joined you guys, and it was just this wonderful community building experience. The build workshop was fantastic, because we were meeting other fellow revolutionaries in a certain way, all these individuals who are interested in breaking free of the system. As much as we can appreciate the system for everything that it's given us up to this point, I think a lot of us know that there are so many elements to it in multiple ways that have run their course. And so we're all kind of pioneering different ways of creating that next level. Tiny home is one way, healthy living is another way. There's so many ways that this is happening. And so to meet other people in a community like that, who not only put their sweat labor into our project, but also were just stalking that front line with us of this new way of living and what that means was really heartwarming.
And the finished product, it just looks incredible, doesn't it?
Yeah, we do. It's gone through several iterations. I mean, this final design and just the way that we wanted it, it started probably 5 years ago. We've been tinkering with these thoughts for a long, long time, and finally this was the one that gave birth, and it was with Ben, who was finally just the right builder for, just an infinite number of reasons. So yeah.
The cedar on the home, it just has perfectly finished it. It's just given it this really kind of rich, warm feeling, hasn't it?
Right, the kind of the black contrasted with the dark brown it's a classic look,
And this property that we're on, you have found a stunning location. Is this actually your land?
This is our land, and I will say from the get-go, it's my wife's amazing research skills. She just was haunting Redfin and all the other real estate sites for probably 2 years and found this little slice of paradise. And so it kind of lined up with getting a tiny home and just putting it on the land and giving it a shot.
Well, the last time that I actually saw this house, it was only the very shell that was complete. I cannot wait to see how it's been finished on the inside.
Well, come on in, let's check it out.
Let's do it.
So here we are.
Look at those windows.
Yeah, this was the design centerpiece of the whole project. For some reason, I don't know why, I just wanted 3 large windows, almost like a triptych, like an old painting. And this sort of was what we circled around from there, building outwards.
One of the other things that I notice about this place is all of the timber that's gone into it. It's also one of Ben's very characteristic building styles where he includes all of these natural materials in his builds. Is that something that you were really looking for in your design?
Yeah, 100%, yeah. Both my wife and I wanted to make sure that we had something that was healthy. Homes these days are still very unhealthy in a lot of ways. The insulation they use, the gypsum drywall, you just name it. Everything. The paint, the carpets, it just goes on and on and on and on. And we were people who were kind of just very, very sensitive to that kind of stuff. We were just aware of it. And we noticed when we were in cleaner houses and when we were in less clean houses. So if we were going to build our own tiny home, we actually spent years looking for the right person who actually understood what we were talking about on a really deep level. And Ben was the man. He knew.
Having the little one as well, that must have really contributed to your decision to build a home using non-toxic and healthy materials.
Yeah, completely. That was essential. And I think you were there even at the workshop when we did what was it called, the blower door test?
Right.
So this idea of how many times does air circulate in the home. And we were actually pretty close to having a passive tiny home, which is kind of crazy. But that was essentially Ben's aim. You know, he wanted to go for something that was incredibly healthy, but also incredibly efficient on a small scale.
And talking about efficiency, the design is so important in that aspect. And this design looks really great. Do you want to walk me through the house and show me around?
Yeah, sure, I'd be happy to. So this was this was my favorite piece of the entire home, because obviously I like to lie on the sofa. I think we're kind of all a generation these days that should work on the sofa, lie on the sofa, watch TV on the sofa if we watch TV or movies. And we knew this was so essential because clearly you want to be lying here to experience the sunset that way. So for me, this was home base.
And then moving over to the other side of the tiny house here, we
Yep.
have this beautiful kitchen, which is actually incredibly large, isn't it?
Yeah, this was Ben's kind of trickery. He did the same with a stairwell, where as you rise it, you don't feel like you have to crouch at all. It just feels entirely normal. And almost the same with the bathroom. So it's this very deceptive process where in every chamber of the tiny home, you're deceived into feeling that you're really just in a kind of normal studio apartment or, you know, small one bedroom.
And it's especially clever with the amount of storage that you've been able to build into this kitchen as well, because I can even see here, under the stairwell, you've built in the oven there, and you've got all of this cupboard storage down here.
Yeah, this is of course classic, you know, stairwells on the other side, storage space is great there.
So when it came to the kitchen design, what would you say your essential must-haves were?
We wanted counter space, we wanted the big fridge. The big fridge was just essential, and I don't regret it for a second. It's just, you walk in, it's wonderful. I mean, between the fridge, the oven, and the counter space, you're kind of good. So we have at least 2 or 3 feet of counter space, if not more. So that's kind of the most important thing, especially if you're a bit of a foodie. You like cooking, which is like me.
And you're completely right about the amount of counter space you have here. And obviously the house isn't completely finished yet. There's still a few little finishing touches to go. One of them is obviously the countertop, because it's still just plywood here. What is your vision for this kitchen when it's going to be finished?
I mean, just minimalistic. You know, that's kind of our vision for the whole thing. Just nice pieces, but not a lot of them. You know, a good set of knives. It's like that simple. I just want to be able to cook very simply, but very efficiently.
And so the door behind me here, where does that lead?
That leads to the dungeon, which I'm happy to show you.
Excellent, let's take a look.
Right. So this is where all the magic happens, as you can see. Full-size bath, nice shower, pretty good size vanity. Obviously the separate, the toilet of champions. We've got the water heater, but also we've also got a hookup for propane, which is not what we originally wanted to do, but we decided to actually throw that in right at the last minute just for safekeeping, because the truth is we didn't really want to support the fracking industry. But we decided to put that in just in case, you know, because at the end of the day, we still are all on a transition. But we're not going to use it if we don't have to. And we have been thinking about solar a lot. We're basically doing it in stages, one piece at a time, so we're, you know, one brick on top of the other.
Exactly. And I noticed that you have a door here in your bathroom as well.
Yeah, we decided to go for the back door because we do have a vision later on down the line, probably stage 4, where we would have a kind of a deck behind here that would have, you know, a hot tub and a cold plunge and some other things like that, and then you would walk out to that whole area, enjoy it, and then come right back into the shower, little changing station.
Just because somebody lives in a tiny house doesn't mean they can't have a really big deck.
Totally. Exactly. We wanted a big deck. Big decks are important. I mean,
Absolutely.
size is not everything, but it's still something.
I completely agree. And should we have a look upstairs?
Let's do it.
All right.
So this is the great stairwell that just, it feels completely normal.
This feels great to walk up.
Yeah, and then you just come and you're on the king-size bed. We have a spot for the baby behind there. And this is one of my other favorite design pieces of it, which is that we've got these wonderful windows that overlook the view.
Yeah.
So every time we go to bed, especially me, because I get the best view, my wife gets the other side, which is still wonderful, but this one is really what it's all about, because the night sky just opens up and you just end up falling asleep staring at stars, which for me is kind of something I really wanted to do, you know?
The design of this loft is really great because I love the way that you've incorporated so much space for your little one as well.
Yeah, we start her off over there, and then halfway through the night she crawls over here. It kind of works. We still kind of need to do a barrier here, which hasn't been finished, but she's pretty savvy for the time being, and she knows what a 2-foot drop is, so no problems yet.
And as she grows up, what's the plans for changing the space to accommodate her getting older?
Yeah, well, the truth is we haven't worked out that detail yet at all. We're going to enjoy it for a while. We obviously have a couple of years before that's a real issue. There is another structure on the property that we'd like to develop. It's a beautiful old stables. The vision has always been that we would live in the tiny home and slowly develop this other area, and at some point, you know, many years down, this would be the kids' house. And I would love to do that for my daughter. I would love to have a place that she can always come back and relax in, and that's kind of a reasonable size, and that doesn't cost anything. And it's just a little studio apartment that can move, they can do something with as well. I just love the idea of kind of handing that down to them, you know, as sort of like, this is an interesting lifestyle, consider it. You don't have to be in the machine and go through the way that, you know, the majority of other people are living, like experience this and see what you think of it, you know. I think it can also build a lot of resilience and, you know, industriousness.
I completely agree. And talking about the economic viability of a tiny house, how much did this space actually cost you to complete?
It cost us about $80K, and we did get, we paid a bunch up front and then got a loan, and that was fine. It's a great loan. If you can get one, it just, you know, you're basically paying a mortgage of about, you know, $500, $400 a month that you pay off pretty quick if, you know, if you're working at it. And so that for us was wonderful.
It really makes a lot of sense, and it must actually give you so much freedom working under that model, because $500 a month, that's cheap rent, isn't it?
It's super cheap rent. Yeah, it's a quarter of what we were paying previously. So one of the things that's changed since we moved in to our tiny home was that life has become much more simple. And we just feel connected to nature in a way that we haven't in other environments, in other houses that we've lived in. But I think one thing that's really important is we've kind of gotten a little quieter. You kind of hear the noises outside. You're very connected to the light. We're a little bit less on our devices, even though we rely on them very, very heavily, because we still are working professionals. But there's a certain peace, a certain quiet that we were looking for that kind of comes together in a tiny home that's easier to manage, that's easier to mobilize, because it's a smaller, more autonomous footprint.
Being in this space just feels really good, and it's so nice for me to revisit it after having done the workshop and seeing all the labor that actually went into constructing it. I know I've put up a good few number of these boards myself, so it's awesome to see the place now being lived in as such a beautiful home. Thank you so much for sharing it with me, Zach.
Hey, my pleasure, mate.
For a young and growing family, this tiny house design is brilliant. And it's even more brilliant knowing that it's all constructed out of wonderful, healthy materials. Just really makes you feel like you can breathe deep in the space, and that is so nice. Right now, it just makes me want to sit back on this couch and enjoy this gorgeous sunset.